Hello everybody, this is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools and welcome to the Social Squared webinar this afternoon. We are going to be obviously talking about Social Squared, but with an emphasis on breaking down information silos using the Social Squared discussion forum tool. If you're not familiar with Social Squared, then you're going to learn all about it in the next hour, and anybody that is already experienced with Social Squared, hopefully be able to learn a few tricks and also go back with some maybe different use cases that you can take back to your organization and implement for different types of reasons around discussion boards. So we're going to first of all do a quick intro to Lightning Tools. I'll keep that quite brief so we can then spend most of the time actually within a live demo of Social Squared, and we're going to be doing that live demo around ISO certification, so you'll be able to see how that can be used for a specific subject like that within inside of your company as well. So to get started, first of all, just a quick intro to Lightning Tools. So as I mentioned, we're a company based here in the well, I say here in the UK, I'm actually in Florida at the moment, but we're based in the UK. We've got our headquarters in Leicestershire. We've been established now for around 17 years. I'm a Microsoft 365 MVP, and we also have our subsidiary office, which is in Orlando, Florida as well. We as a company provide lots of different products around Microsoft SharePoint. So these include permission reporting, permissions management. We also have tools such as content aggregation, form design, and data visualization, as well as what we're going to be taking a look at today, which is the Social Squared discussion board tool or discussion forum tool, whichever terminology you prefer to use. The agenda today, we're going to first of all just take a look at what are information silos and just get clear on that. We're then going to take a look at what's the impact to our organization if we have information that may be trapped in different silos, maybe different departments, different technologies, and so on. And then, as I mentioned, we'll spend most of our time actually looking at Social Squared as a live demonstration. So we are going to start off with the configuration. So from the ground up, you're not going to see any content initially. You're just going to see how we can add the web part from day one, get in and design some different forum groups and forums that are going to serve us as a team of people that can be collaborating with inside a discussion board. And then we're going to have a look at some examples that or different use cases that already have content, and that will give you the opportunity to see what it looks like with content, of course, and how to navigate it, how to use the search, the moderation features, and tagging, and that type of thing. And as with all of our webinars, there's going to be time for a Q&A at the very end. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm not really going to monitor the chat during my presentation because it breaks my concentration, my focus, but feel free to drop questions in the chat, and then I'll address those at the end of the webinar. We can read them out, we can answer them, and hopefully you'll get the answers that you're looking for. Okay, so with that, let's jump into what are information silos. So we talk about silos a lot within organizations, and we, of course, have our data visualization tools, as I mentioned. That's really helpful from a data source perspective. So when we've got different departments, maybe using different technologies, such as our sales department, maybe using a CRM tool, marketing department could be using different social media tools and things like Lumi or of course, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., as well as other tools for sending out mail and so on. And then we also have maybe production tools as well. There could be inventory tools or whatever we might use in different departments. So when it comes to data, we typically do a good job of bringing that data into some sort of reporting tool. It might be Power BI. It could be something like our data viewer tool inside of Social Squared, inside of SharePoint. Anything like that to make that data available to people so that they can make better informed decisions across the business. And there may be tools that we don't use every day because we don't work in that team, but we still have an interest in what's going on. So, for for example, the CRM tool. We all have an interest in sales. We want to see how our business is performing, but we don't necessarily want to try and find our way around the CRM tool. So what we could do is, of course, display that data somewhere centrally where people can access it. And if you're using SharePoint, then that's an ideal place to do that. So that's when it comes to data and reporting. But there's also another type of information that we're going to be focused on today, and that's our sort of general communication. And this can be in the form of an email. It could be in the form of an in-person discussion, maybe around the water cooler or whatever it might be, a corridor conversation. Any type of communication that sometimes just gets trapped within a chat tool. So it could be an instant chat tool between two people or more. It could be trapped in people's inboxes and then forgotten about, or it could even be within certain teams. It doesn't matter. That information is not being surfaced where it's going to serve other people inside the organization. So if I had a question, for example, if I'm working in the office, I might ask somebody that is sat next to me or sat in the same room a question, and they give me the answer, and that's great. But the issue there is, of course, we're collaborating well, but the only people that benefit from that conversation are the people that had the conversation. And the same thing within emails. If we ask a question via email, that's sort of like the default tool that we will use if we want to communicate with somebody that's not right next to us. We could send them an email, and of course they could respond to that email, but there it is, trapped inside my inbox and their inbox, and nobody else gets to benefit from that discussion either. And the same thing happens with direct chat tools and so on. So this isn't a case of use Social Squared for resolving every communication problem, but it serves a purpose where you can actually have a structure to those conversations and post the question where it's going to serve other people. And that could be a team of people. It could be cross departments. It could be through the entire organization. And it's not just to have people benefit there and then, it's also going to benefit people in 6 months' time or a year's time as people are onboarded inside the organization, and of course their head is full of questions. They can find the answers that they're looking for if that information is not trapped inside of certain people's inboxes and so on. So communication channels is quite often a challenge for communication. We also have the organizational structure as well. So of course we form our organizations around different departments. And if we just take the subject of ISO again, so ISO 27001, ISO 9001 is fairly topical for us because we just got recertified for that at Lightning Tools. And there's people that aren't inside the IMS group of people that have questions about, well, what should I do in this circumstance? Or I've got a risk, who do I speak to, and so on. And because they're not working within inside that team of people, they perhaps don't know who to ask, or they try to ask somebody in their own department who may respond correctly or incorrectly, and that's just one person's perspective or one person's point of view on what the answer is. So the idea here is that we break down those departmental boundaries as well by providing a central forum where everybody that has an interest can join that group, either just as a reader to read what's going on, or also to be able to input their questions or their perspectives as well on discussions that are being had. And that can really help sort of grow the communication channel and allow people to benefit from that across the organization and not just within inside that one department. Hierarchical barriers as well pose a problem. Sometimes we feel that we can't ask our superiors a question, but we know that somebody's always busy. We don't want to bother them, so we don't want to send them an email. We don't want to maybe pop into their office and ask them a question. But if it's a central forum, then that breaks down that barrier. We can simply post a question. They don't have to answer, but they may well do if they feel that it's going to serve you a purpose and serve other people a purpose as well. And then, of course, there's the geographical separation. So if people are working from home, it's already a challenge sometimes to communicate effectively without the right tools, and also sharing information effectively becomes a challenge as well. So we tend to speak if we're in a Teams meeting. We can ask questions then, but if there's just a simple question that pops up, we may not have that ability to just ask the person next to us and so on. So yeah, something like the discussion boards will help you feel more involved and help you in order to break down that barrier and ask questions as well. So the impact of this is of the information silos. Of course, reduced collaboration and communication. This can lead to inefficiencies and duplication of work. So if people aren't finding the content that they're looking for, they're not finding the answers that they're looking for, then they're going to send emails when that email's already been asked 1,000 times, again, in different people's inboxes. Whereas if it's asked more centrally, then it's going to really cut down on the amount of time that's used. People can search for that question, find the answer more effectively, just as we do on the internet. So if we've got an issue with our car, then we can post we can search the internet for the question, and we can find the answers typically coming from different forum tools. So we can use the same thing with inside our business as well to find answers more easily. And that, again, helps onboard new users inside the organization. So let's have a look at how Social Squared can help with this. So if you're not familiar with what Social Squared is, it is a discussion board tool or discussion forum tool. It's designed as a typical discussion forum, so much like you would find out on the internet, that maybe around different topics like vehicles or whatever, but you can host that with inside of Microsoft SharePoint as a web part, or also inside of Microsoft Teams as well as a tab, or both. And the benefit there is, yeah, somebody that is spending the majority of their time in Teams all day because they have a lot of meetings that they attend or host, they can easily see the conversations that are occurring through the Microsoft Teams app and access Social Squared there. They could also use SharePoint as well to respond to those same questions. So that has a shared repository, which is SharePoint lists, therefore allowing people to be able to communicate across the two platforms. So the idea is that you have a structure around the conversations. If you look at something like the posts tab inside of Teams or Viva Engage, these are also fantastic communication tools. They're great for sharing ideas, they're great for creating announcements and so on, but typically it's a single feed, and you can get overwhelmed by the amount of content that is being put out there. And if it's not structured, then it's also challenging to find as well, especially in 6 months' time. So if we know that, yeah, somebody answered this question that I have in 6 months' time, I can't remember what it was, trying to find that is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Whereas if you've got that structure around the forum groups and the forums, the discussions are categorized at 2 levels, 3 if you include the actual SharePoint site or the team that it belongs to. So that helps you navigate to the content more easily, and also helps you search the content through the search tool that is already built into Social Squared. So you can engage in conversation, you can create posts, you can reply to people and help them. You can, of course, share information across departments, so we can actually have the same content show up in different teams if we want to. So if you had a sales team and a marketing team and they need to collaborate, but they've each got their own team, well, we can have a discussion forum that is common to both of those teams, and they can have that cross-channel communication from their own team, which is of course beneficial. Or of course you could create a central team as well and give them access to that. The fact that the product is embedded into SharePoint and Teams means that you also benefit from the security and the platform of SharePoint and Teams as well. So your data, your content, it's all residing within inside SharePoint lists, and those SharePoint lists are protected by your Microsoft 365 authentication, multi-factor authentication if you use it, everything you've got implemented in Purview, all of the permissions that you set on your site. Social Squared will benefit from that, so nobody's going to access that content that doesn't already have access to the site that contains that content. And that, of course, includes us. Lightning Tools does not have access to your content in that way. So some of the key features of Social Squared, one of them, we've got the threaded discussions. So this helps us to be able to see who posted the question. We can read the question. We can see the different responses in a threaded view format. We've got the categorization, so that's through forum, group, and forum, that allows people to again, navigate the content more easily by subject or by department, whatever that might be, and we'll give some use cases around that. We've also got user tagging and app mentions, so we can bring people in if we really need their input. We can post a question, tagging them will alert them through a notification so that hopefully they will come in and respond. And then we've also got the search and the content tagging as well. So this allows me to perhaps create a post. There's some auto tagging that's available as well, but we can use tags that are very much like hashtags to describe the content. And that helps people to be able to find posts by tags if they're not familiar with perhaps the categorization around those discussions. We have notifications and alerts for new posts, replies to posts, and when we get mentioned as well. And there's also moderation features that help govern the discussion, so we can make sure that there's no inappropriate content, or we can also make sure that any posts that people are creating are in the correct forum, so people aren't just putting something out there that is in the wrong forum and therefore likely to go unanswered. And if it's duplicated as well, the moderators can sort of keep track of that and make sure that we minimize the amount of posts that are being created. So the integration with SharePoint Teams, which I just alluded to as well, this is implemented as a SharePoint framework solution, so it's very easy to install. We just simply drag and drop an SPF package into your app catalog, or you can download it from the App Store as well if you prefer. And once you've done that and it's available to your tenant, you can simply go into your SharePoint site and you add it as a web part on a page. And the first time you add the web part onto the page, it's going to generate the lists which are hidden, which you'll see in just a moment. And that's where the content will reside. So then people can engage through the web part, and the content is being captured inside those the SharePoint lists. And if you teamify that SharePoint site, so you create a team from it, then that again will share that same repository. So you can of course use the discussion forum tool inside of Teams as well. All the security I mentioned is handled by Microsoft 365. So there's no, we're not a SaaS company here. You don't have another company to trust in terms of where your data is going to reside, and what security do they have in place. This is within inside your tenant, so there's no question about what region that data is going to be stored in or anything like that. It's in the region that you've already selected for your Microsoft 365 tenant. And that integration means that you're already using the platforms that you've selected for collaboration, which would be the Teams and SharePoint tools. So a few different use cases before we dive into a demo. I mentioned about new employees. So new employees require some sort of platform to learn from more experienced colleagues. So as we start using Social Squared or discussion forums, we're effectively building up a knowledge base of questions and answers that again are categorized, easy to navigate, easy to search, and so on. So anybody that is joining an organization, whatever Social Squared is being used for, you'll be able to find answers to your questions easily without feeling embarrassed about asking questions and so on. You'll be able to find that content. You may have product development teams like we do at Lightning Tools. We're creating software. There's involvement around that from the marketing team, from the sales team, from tech support. All of that input helps us to gather customer feedback, and the development team can see that customer feedback, and they can learn from it, and they can help refine the products as well. So we're getting different audiences involved inside the same discussion. We're not just working departmentally and having that departmental barrier. Employees in large organizations struggle to find content. So again, using the posts tab, it's difficult to scroll or search to find questions and answers. So Social Squared, again, with that structure, is more suitable to a Q&A type environment. And then if you've got multiple projects working simultaneously, you don't have to jump in and out of every single team. We find ourselves as members of multiple teams inside of Microsoft Teams, and it's sometimes difficult to keep track of where did that conversation take place. So if we're using a central discussion forum or a discussion forum that spans multiple teams, then we've really got one place to look that, again, is providing that categorization. There's innovative ideas that can be shared as well. it's an ideal platform for that, and also as a tech support type environment, so we can have technical issues being resolved more easily because we've got input from different departments that are providing different perspectives on the answer. So let's have a look at what Social Squared looks like, and we'll jump into a live demo. So I'm going to start off with a brand new team site. So we're going to create a new team site around the subject of ISO certification. So we've got somewhere where everybody can feel involved, everybody can have an input and learn as well. So we're just going to go through and use a brand new template here, and we're going to have ISO certification as our SharePoint site name. So we've got the unique name established and so on. And as I mentioned, we're not managing security Social Squared itself. As I add members in here, so if I add demo user 5 and we add demo user 6, these are the only people besides myself that will have access to the content that is inside Social Squared. So we can create that site knowing that the content is secure. Okay, so just give that a moment to load. So what you'll see is a brand new site. We ended up with the purple theme here, which I'm not a huge fan of, but we'll just take a moment to change that one. Okay, let's just close down that browse templates. There we go, and yeah, we'll come here to change the look and change the theme here, and I'm going to come down to this new color theme, which I like because it's kind of lightning tools bluish, and we've got the cobalt theme. So we've got the site created, and the next stage is to go in and add the web part, which we could of course do as with SharePoint web parts. We can add them on any page. Just for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to create a new page. So we've got less going on the screen. So we will create a blank SharePoint site here. Sorry, SharePoint page. And we're going to call this ISO discussions. Okay, so you'll notice here the first time that I add the web part, we can add the web part into one of these web part zones. I'm going to choose the Social Squared forums, and the first time that we're adding it, it's going to go through and create those hidden SharePoint lists. So people won't be accessing these lists directly; they won't know that they exist. The engagement, the posts get created through the web part itself, but this is the repository. So because they're being created inside this SharePoint site, again, these are the only people, the 2 people that I added that have access to the content. They will be the only people seeing the posts, the replies to the posts via the web part itself. So it just takes a few moments to create those lists, and then we can start to build out the forum groups and the forums that we're going to utilize inside of Social Squared. So let's just give that a moment. So that's completed. Now you've got some guidance here. If it's the first time that you've used Social Squared, there's some animations and so on that you can use, or a wizard that will guide you through creating the forum groups. What I'm going to do is just simply jump into the burger menu on the left-hand side and go into the forum settings. And from here, we can start to add the new forum groups. So the first one I'm going to create is really sort of like a general forum group. So that general forum group is going to give me the ability to have general discussions that perhaps aren't too categorized. So if people feel that they've got a question that doesn't really fit into one of the other forums that I'll be creating, they can do so through the general discussions forum group. So we'll add that one, and I'm going to add another forum group for ISO 27001 certification, and we'll add one more, which is going to be for the ISO 9001 certification. So these are the outer forum groups, if you like, and then within inside of each of the forum groups, if we click onto view forums, we can start to add the individual forums. So what's quite nice to have is a new member introduction forum. So as you have people that perhaps join the ISO team or they're interested for whatever reason, they can introduce themselves. So we just give that a description in here. And you'll notice as I'm creating the forum that we also have the ability to add moderators as well. So adding a moderator, if I just go through and maybe select demo user 5 as the moderator, the moderator can be added per forum, and this allows them to effectively have admin access over that one particular forum. They can move content if it's not meant to be in that forum. They can move it to a different forum. They can also amend people's posts. They can delete them and so on and so forth. So it's an ideal opportunity to add a moderator. So I'll go through and create that. We can refine the moderation as well. So I can allow users to create topics and posts without forcing them to be approved before they display. So we've got that option. Likewise, if we want to tie it down to only moderators or administrators of the site can create posts, then we can do that as well. As you'll see shortly, there's properties that we can set as well on the web part. So whether we want to enable voting, emojis, whether we want the mark as answered feature and things like that, we can turn them on or off for the entire web part instance, but we can also refine them per forum. So if we have a specific forum where we don't want to use voting, for example, then we can turn that on or off. So as people are introducing themselves, it doesn't make sense to vote. Whereas if we're brainstorming on risk analysis, then yeah, it's an idea to allow people to vote. So we can decide per forum whether we want to allow the voting or not, or any of those other properties. So we've got a new member introduction forum. I'm just going to add a couple more and then we'll jump to one that I've already built. So we're not just seeing me creating the same content over and over again. So I'm just going to create one called industry news and updates. So anything around ISO that we want to share, we can drop in to that forum to get participation. And now I'm going to come into the ISO 27001 certification, and we could just go through and add one more. So I'm just going to create one called risk management and give this a description. So discuss potential risks, and once more we could go in and add a moderator. Okay, those moderators can be external as well if you want guest accounts. Yeah, we also want people to be able to post without it necessarily being approved all the time. So this is how we can go through and create the forum groups and the forums. And like I said, I've already created an instance of that. So I'm just going to bring that one up. So just bear with me. Let's put this example here. So as you can see, we've got our forum groups and forums created around this whole ISO certification. So if it's anything to do with risk management, we can ask the question within inside this forum. If we've got questions around policies and procedures, there's a place for that, as well as audit and certification as well. So the forum group that we created here for ISO 27001, that's the information security certification. Everything is encapsulated there, and likewise, we've got the same thing for ISO 9001 as well. And scrolling down further, you can see there's also training and resources as a forum group. So we can share just general workshops and things like that, or useful PDFs that we found on the internet, etc. So that's the structure. Now, if I want to post a new question, perhaps for the first time, what I can do is go into the risk management forum, if that's the ideal location for it. And notice how we've got the add new topic option in there. So, so adding a new topic gives me the ability to add the subject. We can also create the body of the content and so on. And I've got some content ready to go. So we're just going to do a bit of copy and paste. So this is going to be a subject of best practices for gathering questions, and we'll go in and drop the content in there. So I'm just going to do a simple copy and paste. Now, when we've got the content in here, we can, of course, go through and refine that using the rich text formatting. So if we want to do any highlighting to bring certain pieces to people's attention, we can do. Beyond the ordinary sort of text formatting and hyperlinks, etc., you'll also notice that you can insert images, you can insert other types of media. So if it's YouTube videos or anything like that, we can embed those, and even also around things like source code. So if there was a technical reason for using Social Squared, if people were putting in code and they couldn't get the code to work, we can paste that code and have it formatted as the code so that it can be more easily read by other developers. So we can post that in. You'll notice that we've also got, as I am signed in as the owner of the site, I can actually refine some of these options. So if we absolutely don't want to use it for that reason, if we don't want to use it for discussing code, then things like syntax highlighting can actually be turned off so that people aren't confused as to what that feature is. So you can turn on and off those options. You'll also notice that we've got things like posting anonymously. That again is a feature that you can switch off if you don't want people to be able to post anonymously. If we always want to know who those people are, we could do that. And here's one of the examples of the alerts as well. So I can, or I am subscribed by default when somebody replies, which is of course what I exactly want to do. And then we've also got tags here as well. So I could tag this as ISO 27001, that tag, and we could also tag it with risk management as well. So if there's other posts that we are creating, we can reuse those tasks again, those tags again, in order to be able to describe the content and therefore more easily find it. There's also a cross-posting option. So sometimes when you're creating a post, it's relevant to more than one of the forums. So there might be a question that is about policies and procedures that is relevant to risk in ISO 27001, but it's also relevant to ISO 9001 as well. So what I could do is hit the cross-posting option and notice how this shows the forum groups and forums that we created. So if I decided that I also want that to appear under quality management principles as a forum, I could select that forum and it will appear in both of those places. So we're able to navigate to it in both places, and also people can respond to it in both places as well. So I can add that as a post. Let's go and create that one. And we'll just give that a moment here. And actually, whilst that's just saving, I'm just going to jump into, there we go, it's created. Just jump into Teams, and let's just give this a quick reload. And you'll notice that I'm using the same product with inside of Teams as well. So you can add Social Squared as a tab inside the Teams channel, and therefore respond to that content through there too. So just give that also a moment to load, and you'll see the replies coming through. I don't know why it's setting things up for me. It's already there on the screen, but there we go. Let's just navigate to the to the team, and so in here is the Social Squared Forum tab. Okay, so we can close the settings. We don't need those just yet. But in there, you can see the post that I created through SharePoint. And what we're going to do is respond to that via Teams, and we'll be able to see that response through SharePoint as well. So, so once more, I'm just going to grab a bit of content. Let's go into this this post. We can reply to it. So we'll just drop into our response there. We may have an image or something else like that we want to use. I'm just going to grab an image and notice how we can just simply copy that image, right click and paste, so we don't have any challenges with having to upload images to a picture library or anything like that. First, we can just simply copy paste. We can resize and reposition as well the image and build up a reply that we want to use. Okay, so once we're happy, we can hit reply. And as we navigate back here, let's go into the risk management. We'll open up that post again. And here you can see the response. So we've got that cross-platform communication going on. From there, I could vote if I hadn't also created that myself. So you can vote up and vote down. We can also give feedback through things like likes and so on as well. And when we do reply, if I was to reply again to this response, one of the key features here is that I could highlight an area that I want to call out. So if we've got the checklist section here, for example, highlighting that will embed that as part of my post. So now I can address this bit and I don't have to really sort of overemphasize to describe what it is I'm actually responding to in my response. I can just simply embed that section. Okay, so that inserts that as a quote, and you don't have to quote reply the whole lot. It's just that one paragraph or that one bullet that I wanted to address there. So you've also got the ability to do things like marking as answered. Marking as answered doesn't just serve the person who created the post and make them feel better that their post was answered in the right way. It's also allowing other people to benefit from knowing what is the right answer here. So notice that that has been marked as answered. That's given me some points because I marked somebody's post as an answer. And then whenever we're looking at a thread and we want to just simply show the answer, we can always click that show answered option at the top there, and that will allow us to see it more clearly. Okay, so that's how we can create posts, reply to posts. Let's have a look at the different options that we also have inside here. So I'm seeing all of the different options because I am signed in as the owner. Anybody that is a typical member of the site wouldn't see all of these options unless they were also a moderator for that particular forum. But one of the things you'll see is I've got the option of deleting a topic. So if I wanted to delete this topic as a moderator, I could. We can also move the topic as well. So as I mentioned earlier, if somebody's posted something they didn't really give much thought to where they're posting it, we could move it to a more appropriate forum by selecting that and choosing move. We also have the option of making something sticky. So when I make it sticky, it's going to keep that post at the very top of the page, either indefinitely or for a period of time. So I can say, yeah, after a month or so, this can just fall in line with all of the other posts, but I want to keep it at the top of this forum because it's the most relevant one that I want everybody to be able to see. Sometimes they get noisy. We get lots of different replies. So what I can do is lock the thread as well. So now nobody can respond to it, but it's still purpose. It's still there for people to be able to search, find, and learn from it. We have the threaded view that we mentioned earlier. So that will use indentation so we can clearly see who's replying to who inside the thread. And then we've also got the options to subscribe and unsubscribe as well. So I'm already subscribed to this because I created it. But if I want to unsubscribe, I can simply do that by toggling that option there. So that will give me an email notification or a Teams notification. If I'm inside of Microsoft Teams, that will bring my attention to the fact that there is a reply. You also have other feedback, such as ratings in here. We can also bookmark posts and sort the posts so we can find the content more easily. Okay, there's also some different views. So notice how from that burger menu, we've got the different views like what is recent. So we can see all of the recent activities. We can see top contributors as well. We can also see followers. So one of the benefits here is you can also follow certain individuals. So if you're in a sort of student-teacher environment, you could follow the teacher, for example, and then be alerted to the fact that their posts have been created. We can also see active users. There's a tag cloud as well for navigating the content and so on. So that we can see some of this in action, let's go to another instance of Social Squared. So this particular instance is around well-being. So you can see that we've already got lots of content in here. We've got the structure to serve well-being, such as work-life balance, health and safety, employee growth and development, and so on. So if I wanted to search on a keyword in here, such as risk, we can do that and find the content more easily. So notice that the words are being highlighted, and if there's anything there that we wanted to jump into, we can just hit view topic and dive into that conversation very quickly. You'll also notice some of the other features, like we've got topic summarization, which can be provided through AI. So you can always summarize a topic. If there's 50 different responses, we can hit summarize, and it's going to generate a summary of it. So we can see what's going on inside this thread just at a glance. We've also got suggested replies and things like that served through AI as well, which is useful. And that's a feature that you can switch on or switch off again if you didn't want to use AI at all. Then you don't have to. It can be completely unavailable. So we saw how we can search the content, but if we go to the tag cloud, you'll also be able to see all the different tags that were being used throughout this instance of Social Squared. So anything around health and safety has been mentioned a lot, hence the bigger font. So we can click onto that and it will list all of the posts regarding health and safety through that tag there. Okay, so that's the tag cloud. Again, if we wanted to have a look at things like top contributors, we can see that and how many points they've all earned through creating posts and marking posts as answered and things like that as well. Now the configuration, let's just have a look at some of the different options that you've got. So we're just going to go through and edit this instance. You saw how we could create moderators and the options when we create the forums and forum groups. But what we can have a look at here is just some of the other refinements that you can make to how Social Squared works for you inside of SharePoint and Teams. So again, just wait a moment for that to pop up. Okay, so we're in the edit mode. We can select the web part, click onto the properties, and this is where all the configuration can take place. So one of the benefits of also having forum groups and forums, you could have multiple pages and multiple channels inside a team, and you don't necessarily want all of these forum groups to always show inside those pages. So under the forum group section, we can decide perhaps we don't want to have employee growth and development shown on this page, but we do want to have health and safety and work-life balance. So we could select just those forum groups, and those are the only forum groups that will display here. And that's just masking that content. It's not securing it. Around notifications, so if you want to use email for notifications, you can. If you're already getting enough email, then you could just use Teams for the notifications. So you've got that option as well. And you can turn on or off things like cat mentions, whether you get notified through those also. Of course, there's paging options. So how many posts per page do we get before we see the page navigation and things like that. Emojis, you can turn on or off. Tagging, you saw how I was using really a freestyle tagging, so I could tag with any term I like. But if you want to, you can also use the term store for tagging as well. So that way you're dictating which tags can be used, and it becomes more uniformed as to how people tag the content. You can make attachments as well to posts. You can choose where they go. You can also specify what the maximum file size is and what attachments you would like people to make. So if you wanted to limit this to just screenshots, for example, then you could just simply do what I did and set that just down to images and not things like Word documents and so on. Badges can also be created. So this allows people to be able to be seen for being a regular contributor to Social Squared. So you can create your own thresholds here when your first badge gets served, when your second badge gets served, and so on. And you can also choose the type of badge that you'd like to use. So you could use stars, or you could use pints of beer, or whatever you want to use as an image in there. And then each of the other features like ratings, votings, pollings as well, you can turn on or off. We've also got anonymous posting can be switched on or off. You can have terms and conditions. So if you had specific rules around social engagement inside your organization, you can have people accept a group of terms before they're able to use the product. And then really around refinement of the columns that are shown and things like that, you can also set throughout there as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a taster as to what Social Squared is, and how using Social Squared as a central discussion forum tool, as opposed to using email for direct communication or using direct chat for notification, will help to get more engagement from people and help them to be able to answer their own questions as well, by using a discussion forum tool. So with that, let's open up for a Q&A. In fact, I do have a couple more slides. Let's just jump to those. One of them actually is just what we're working on. So just to give you a bit of feedback on that. So in terms of new innovations this month, we've got a new release coming out. There's nothing groundbreaking as new features here, because we're at that point in time where we're actually building out our roadmap for the next 6 months. But one of the changes that we have made is really for sort of larger enterprise organizations that may only have a use for the product within certain departments. They may have 100,000 users inside their organization, whereas they've got 200 users inside one department or team where they want to use the product. So what we've introduced is a new site collection scoped licensing option, where it can be licensed just for that one site collection, and therefore it doesn't necessarily have to be licensed for every user inside the org. There's just a few refinements around things like voting icons and tooltips and things like that. We're rolling out a new documentation platform as well. So you'll notice that there's going to be enhanced help with the ability to find content more easily. And then we've also got a new topic view, which can be pinned. So this is allowing you to show everything as a sort of flat hierarchy if you want to. So if you don't want that separation of forum groups and forums, sometimes people just want a general discussion forum. You'll be able to use that with inside an instance of Social Squared as well. Later on this year, we've got more Copilot integrations, so the summary, but we're also going to introduce co-authoring of posts as well. So similar to how you can use Copilot in email or in Word, where it's giving you some input into the content that could be created, we'll be using that as well as suggested answers. So when you go to reply to somebody, it can suggest answers, and it's not just using general ChatGPT. This is going to be answered based on the other content that is inside of your Microsoft 365 environment. So that, of course, is something you need to roll out carefully, as with the rest of Copilot. Make sure your permissions are intact, and we know a great permissions tool called DeliverPoint for that one that will be able to help you. We're also going to have archived discussions, so you'll be able to take an entire discussion thread, and if you want to keep this as a record, you can export that as a PDF, and that PDF can then be accessed maybe through a document library or through OneDrive when it's needed. And we're also going to use sharing links as well. So already you can just simply copy paste the link to a post, but using sharing links, if there's something that you wanted to share similarly as to what we would do with a document in a document library or with a list item in a list, you'll be able to generate a sharing link and share that via email with certain people so they have access to that discussion. And of course, we welcome any feedback on any of these roadmap features that we're rolling out as well. Okay, so with that, let's open up for a Q&A. So I'm just going to go into the chat. So I don't see yet any any questions. But yeah, if you do have questions, please drop those into the chat window. I'll just give you a few moments to do that, and I'll be able to answer those. Or if you prefer, you could reach out to me on brett@lightningtools.com. You can also reach out to our support team on help@lightningtools.com if you've got any technical questions. And providing feedback as well, feel free to use my email address for that, so brett@lightningtools.com. All right, so just give you a moment for any questions that you want to post. And if there aren't any, then just simply feel free to email me should those come up. All right, not seeing any questions as yet. So we'll leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Hopefully this is useful to you, and look forward to seeing you again on our next webinar, which will be a month from now. All right, many thanks. Take care. Oh, there is one question. It's just, oh, okay. So just a question around whether the webinar was recorded. So yes, the webinar is recorded. It's going to be available up on our website. So, and you'll also receive an email with it as well. So you can of course share that email with whoever, but it will be on our website. So if you go to lightningtools.com, click onto webinars, you'll be able to access it there as well. So yeah, thanks very much for the question. All right, thanks again, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.